In this tutorial, we'll build this responsive UI that changes appearance on every orientation and device size. Hey guys, welcome back to episode 2 of the responsive UI series. I think I'm going to make this a 3-parter because I can't cover state management combined with responsive UI in this current tutorial. So for this tutorial, we are building an architecture for the UI specifically. With this architecture, I want to make it easy for you to provide a widget for a specific orientation and a specific device size. Before we get started, you should download the starting code for this tutorial. You can find it over on FilledStacks.com, the latest tutorial, or you can click in the link in the description below. So if you are continuing with the code from the previous tutorial, there's 3 changes that you'll have to make to match the current starting tutorial code that I put up on the website. The first thing is that I changed the name of the base widget to responsive builder. The second thing that I changed is that I removed the orientation from the sizing information. And the last change is in the get device type function. Instead of checking the portrait and using either the width or the height, I used the shortest side property on the size object. For those of you new to this tutorial, we have a device preview set up to preview different view types. We have a home view. There's a utils file with a get device function that returns the device type that we are on based on width breakpoints. We're using the shortest side, as I told you, to determine what the device width actually is. We have a sizing information object, the responsive builder that returns our sizing information, and an enum for the device screen type. Today we'll be using the responsive builder to build some base widgets to create a responsive UI framework. The first thing we want to cover is being able to build a widget per screen type. So we'll create a new file called screen type layout. That will be under the responsive folder. We can import the material package and then create a new stateless widget called screen type layout. We'll add a property of type widget called mobile. Then we'll add another property called tablet, and then the last property called desktop. We'll pass all of those in through the constructor. And for the root of the build function, we'll return our responsive builder. The builder of this widget passes back the build context as well as the sizing information. Then we can go ahead and check the device screen type, and we'll check if it equals tablet. And if it equals tablet and we have a tablet widget supplied, then we'll return that widget. We'll do the same for the desktop device screen type. And to ensure that the mobile is the default, we'll return that if nothing else has been satisfied. The next widget we want to build is a widget where we can supply the orientation UI to be built for a specific orientation. So under the responsive folder, create a new file called orientation layout. We'll import the material package, then create a new stateless widget called orientation layout. We'll create a property of type widget called landscape, and we'll also create another property of type widget called portrait. We'll pass these 2 values in through the constructor. Then for the build function, we'll remove the container. We'll start off by getting the orientation from the media query. Then we'll check if the orientation equals landscape. If it is equal, we'll return landscape. If landscape is null, we want to return the portrait widget instead. And by default, we always want to return the portrait widget. That's it for all the base views that we want to use in this architecture. Next up, we'll start building the UI, and then we'll go over the code organization for this architecture. We'll start off by building the mobile portrait view. As you can see, we have an icon in the top left. If you click that, it opens up the navigation drawer on the left side. We know that the home view will have multiple different layouts for each of the orientation and device sizes. So we'll start off by making the root of the build function a screen type layout. For mobile, we'll supply the orientation layout. We'll pass in a new widget called home mobile portrait. The way we'll organize the code is by adding 2 classes maximum to 1 file. each file will be dedicated to the device screen type. So make a new file under home called home view mobile, and that's where we'll add our portrait widget as well as our landscape widget. We can go ahead and import the material package. Then we can create a new stateless widget called home mobile portrait. The root of this view will be a scaffold, and for the body we'll supply a column with the first child being padding. We'll set the padding to 16, and the child of this padding widget will be an icon button. The icon that we want to supply is the menu icon, and we'll set the size of this icon to 30. For the onPressed function, we'll be adding a global key that we'll use to open up the drawer. So at the top of your home mobile portrait file, add a new global key of type scaffold state, call it scaffold key. Then we can supply the key to the scaffold, and in the onPress function, we'll get the current state from the scaffold key and call open drawer. If you run the code now, all you should see is the icon in the top left, and clicking that should do nothing since there's no drawer supplied yet. The preview that you're seeing in the emulator is from device preview, which allows you to easily swap between your orientations as well as your screen types. To add the app drawer, we'll pass a new widget called AppDraw to the scaffold drawer property. Then under the lib folder, you can create a new folder called widgets. And inside that folder, you can create another folder called AppDraw. And inside that folder, you can create a new file called AppDraw. Then we'll create a new stateless widget called AppDraw. The root of this widget will be a container of width 250. Then we'll give it a decoration. We'll use a box decoration. We'll set the color of this container to white, and we'll also supply it with a box shadow list. It will only contain one box shadow. We'll set the blur radius to 16, and for the color, we'll index into the colors object and set it to black 12. Then you can go back to the home view mobile file and import the app drawer. And if you click on the hamburger icon now, you should see your drawer pop up and slide in. Next up, we'll look at the mobile landscape. We look at the drawer only, and as you can see, it is permanently available on the left side of the screen. If we rotate the preview, the UI should just shrink down in height, but everything else should still work the same, and that's not what we want. So you can head over to the home view, and for the landscape widget, we will supply a new widget called home mobile landscape. Then we can go back to the home view mobile file. If you don't want to have multiple classes in a file, you can create two separate files for the portrait and landscape views. But for now, I will be adding my orientation widgets in the same file grouped under the device screen type. We'll start off by adding a scaffold widget, and the body of the scaffold will be a row where the first child is the app drawer. As you can see, it appeared on screen and it is constantly available on the left side. The only problem is that the width is a bit too much to match our designs. Head over to the app drawer file, and then we'll get the orientation from the media query. And for the width of the container, we'll check if the orientation is in portrait. And if it is portrait, we'll still return 250, otherwise we'll return 100. If you rotate now, you should see in the portrait mode your drawer is a bit larger, and if you rotate back, it is a fixed portrait on the left side of width 100. And at this point, you can basically see how I'll be handling my responsive UI, not only at a view level, but we can do this for smaller widgets as well. Next up, we'll tackle the tablet portrait, which you can see has the drawer fixed at the bottom like a tab bar view. Let's start off by changing our device to an iPad, and as we can see, it shows us the mobile landscape because we haven't supplied a tablet layout yet. And then I also just want to say how awesome does it look having your code organized in this way, where you can clearly read that your screen layout for mobile portrait provides you with this widget, and the same for landscape, and the same for tablet. You can add desktop, you can add the watch, and whatever screens may come in the future. But enough of that, we'll add a new widget for the tablet property called home tablet. Then under the home folder, we can create a new file called home view tablet. We'll import the material package, then create a new stateless widget called home view tablet. Go back to the home view and fix up the name of the tablet widget and then import that file. The root of the home view tablet will be a scaffold. The cool thing about the tablet layout is that it's either going to be a row or a column, but the children will stay exactly the same. We'll have one expanded widget with content inside. For now, we'll give it an empty container. And then we'll have our app drawer at the end of it or at the start of it. The difference will be the orientation that the device is in. So instead of using the orientation layout, I'm going to show you a different way, which is just using the orientation internally and using conditionals for your widget UI. Once we have the orientation from the media query, we can check if the device is in portrait. If it is in portrait, we will return a column as the scaffold body. We will supply the children with the list of children that were created above. And if the device is not in portrait, we will supply a row as the body of the scaffold. And for the children, we will supply a reversed list of the same list of children. Now the app drawer is not set up properly to switch between mobile and tablet, so we'll do that now. Create a new file under the app drawer folder called AppDraw Mobile. We'll import the material package. Then we'll create a new stateless widget called AppDraw Mobile, and we'll take all the code currently in the AppDraw build function and paste it in there. Then for the root of the app drawer, we'll return a screen type layout. For the mobile, we'll supply the widget we just created, the AppDraw Mobile widget. And for tablet, we'll supply a new orientation layout widget where we'll define our portrait first. We'll supply it with a new widget called AppDraw Tablet Portrait. Then under the AppDraw folder, you can create a new file called AppDraw Tablet. Then in this file, we'll create a new stateless widget called AppDraw Tablet Portrait. We'll set the height of the container equal to 130 and give it a box decoration similar to the previous drawer's box decoration. Then you can head back to the AppDraw file and import the tablet portrait layout. Now you should see on the preview on the right side that the new bottom AppDraw bar has showed up. Next up, we'll supply the landscape property to the orientation layout for the tablet screen type. We'll supply a new widget called AppDraw Tablet Landscape. We can head back to the tablet file and we'll create a new widget called AppDraw Tablet Landscape. We can then set the width of the container to 250. And then just copy the box decoration from the definition above. And if you save your code now on the preview, you'll see your orientation changes takes effect. Each of the 4 different views now has a completely different UI that you can manipulate independently of each other. That's basically how I'll be handling everything going forward. I wanted to use as little of the media query directly using conditionals because I've seen and I've attempted to build responsive UI using multiple if statements within one view, and it is not as maintainable as I would like it to be. And just to hammer down the idea of the architecture that I'm trying to present, we'll build these drawer items which will change independently of the drawer itself. This means you can place the item anywhere on any view without worrying about its responsiveness, and internally it will figure out how to change itself to fit the view for the screen type as well as the orientation that's currently being displayed. We can create a new folder in the widgets folder called drawer option, and under that folder create a new file called drawer option. This will be a stateless widget called drawer option. It will take in a title property of type string. It will also take in icon data, and we'll call that icon data. This will be passed in through the constructor. For the root of our build object, we'll return a screen type layout. We'll start off by supplying a mobile layout, and we'll use the orientation layout to supply different UIs per orientation. We'll start off by giving it a new widget called Drawer Option Mobile Landscape. We'll also supply the portrait version using a similar naming convention, calling it Drawer Option Mobile Portrait. Then for the tablet widget of the screen type layout, we'll supply a new orientation layout widget, and for the portrait version, we'll call Drawer Option Tablet Portrait. And for the landscape version, we will supply the Drawer Option Mobile Portrait, not the landscape. I typed it wrong here, but we'll change that later since they look exactly the same. Then we can go ahead and create a new file called Drawer Option Mobile, and inside we'll create a new stateless widget called Drawer Option Mobile Portrait. This will take in the title as well as the icon data from the drawer option. We'll pass that in through the constructor. Then for the styling of this widget, we'll give it a padding on the left of 25. We'll set the height of the container to 80. And for the row, we'll start off with an icon. We'll pass it the icon data and we'll set the size to 25. Then to create some spacing, we'll use a sized box and set the width to 25. And for the title, we will set a text widget where we will set the style, changing the font size to 21. To get all the errors to go away and give us a preview, we'll create all the widgets for the options. So in the mobile file for the drawer option, create the Drawer Option Mobile Landscape widget. Then under the drawer option file, create a new file called Drawer Option Tablet. Create a new stateless widget called Drawer Option Tablet Portrait, and import all those files in the drawer option file so that we can see our previews. We'll finish up the mobile UI for the drawer option. So you can head to the Drawer Option Mobile Landscape widget. We'll set the container's height to 70. We'll set the alignment to center, and then we will set the icon as the child of the container, and the icon data for that icon will be passed in through the constructor of the widget. Then we can move on to the Drawer Option Tablet Portrait. It'll take in the title as a string. It will also take in the icon data, which we will pass in through the constructor. We'll set the width of this container to 152. We'll set the alignment to center. And the child of this container will be a column that has the icon data at the top with a widget of size 45 and the title below that. Then we can head over to the AppDraw file where we'll create a static method that will return to us the list of children that we want to display in these app drawers. We'll create a new static function that returns a list of widgets called getDrawerOptions. Then we'll add a new drawer option to the list. The title we'll set to images, and for the icon data we'll pass the image from the icons object. Then we'll add the same type with the title reports and the photo filter icon. We'll add another option, title incidents, and takes in the message icon. We'll add a fourth one, title settings, and takes in the settings icon. And now we can add the drawer options to our actual drawer. We'll go to the AppDraw mobile file, and the child of the drawer container will be a column. And the children of that column will be set to the getDrawerOptions static function from the AppDraw file. Then you can open up the AppDraw tablet portrait, and the child of that container will be a row. And the children of that row will be set to the getDrawerOptions function from the AppDraw. And for the tablet landscape, the child of the container will be a column, and the children will once again come from the getDrawerOptions function. If you try and view the drawer options now, everything will be null, and that's because we haven't passed down the title and the icon data to the drawer option mobile layouts. So we'll quickly pass in the icon data and the title where it's appropriate for each of the drawer option layouts. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we have to set the landscape for the tablet layout equal to the drawer option mobile portrait and not the landscape item. When you save this now, you can go through all of your layouts, all 4 at least, and you'll see that it has a completely different layout specifically created for that orientation and device layout. Now keep in mind that I was doing this and using this type of layout specifically so that you can see how you would handle something as complex as this. The idea with this architecture has been achieved where you can clearly read which UIs are being used for which orientations and which device screen types as well. There's another drawer item to be made, and that's the profile item. I'll not be doing that. I wanted to leave it to you guys so you can practice using this architecture and then report back with any questions if you get stuck on anything. That'll be all for this week. Thank you so much for watching. Part 3 is coming out next week, where I'll be incorporating provider and building in my state management architecture on top of this responsive UI, and showing you how you can build a fully production ready scalable application for all platforms that Flutter runs on. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I appreciate all of the feedback and all of the views. I will see you guys next week.